It's Wednesday, and over in Rome, the conclave is currently taking place. Over the next few days, or however long it takes, 133 cardinals from around the world will select a new pope. Now, usually this is a very secretive process. The only way the public has any idea what's going on inside the Sistine Chapel is through puffs of either black or white smoke. But we can't pretend that worldly secular politics doesn't play a role in this process, even though it's supposed to be entirely religious. And on that note, MAGA has been getting involved, sticking their grubby little hands into this revered and sacred process. By now, the cardinals are already sequestered away, but in the days leading up to the conclave, there's plenty of whining and dining, basically political lobbying. Everyone wants their guy to be the next pope because, again, the papacy is not just of religious significance, it's very much a political role in both form and function.
I want to direct this video a bit more to our Word on Fire family. As you can see, I'm standing on this wonderful perch here right near St. Peter's Basilica. We're one day ahead of the beginning of the conclave. And I've been here talking to lots of these TV networks and reporters about, the usual things of who are the candidates and how do you see this thing going. And what I've been hearing from people as I listen around Rome is a hunger for a quiet papacy. And I think what people mean is after the years of Pope Francis that were somewhat tumultuous, some ambiguity, some concern, some confusion about where the church is going, a desire for someone who will kind of be a steady hand on the tiller, maybe keep things quiet, do the basic tasks of the papacy, and not necessarily be an heroic figure on the world stage.
If you're thinking that's not how things are supposed to work, well, it was just America Week in Rome, an annual week in which wealthy Americans go to Rome to pledge funds to the Vatican. This happens every year, regardless of whether or not a conclave is happening. And this year, America Week happened to coincide with the conclave. How fortuitous for these very wealthy Americans. The Papal Foundation is the organization behind America Week, and it costs $1 million to join. About 80 members of the foundation made the so-called pilgrimage to Rome in an effort to influence the cardinals to vote the way they would like them to vote during the conclave. Of course, the president of the foundation, Ward Fitzgerald III, that is his real name, says the group's true purpose is to serve the Pope and the Catholic Church however they best can. According to Fitzgerald, the foundation gave more than $250 million in grants, scholarships, and humanitarian aid since 1998, including $14.7 million in 2024. In the coming years, the foundation is hoping to donate $30 million annually, eventually raising an additional $750 million. At an event last week at the St. Regis in Rome, the foundation announced its fundraising goals and disclosed who they would like to see as the next pope. One guest told reporters, "This room could raise $1 billion to help the church so long as we have the right pope." A little quid pro quo never hurt anyone, am I right? Also present in Rome last week was the Napa Institute, headed up by founder Tim Bush. It's comprised of right-wing Catholics from California, and Bush has said that the Trump administration is the most Christian administration he's seen. At one dinner, Bush served his own line of Trinitas Cellars wines, part of his faith collection of wines, with bottles retailing for $50 to $125. But as I said, all of this is obviously political, and 20% of the Napa Institute's members are also affiliated with Opus Dei, a Catholic sect that's affiliated with Project 2025. The goal with this organization is to push American politics in a direction that aligns with a particularly conservative interpretation of Catholicism or just Christianity. Many Catholics, including Bush, have felt that Pope Francis was too liberal for their liking, so they're hoping now to get someone much more conservative in his place this time. According to the Daily Beast, Bush has claimed that wealthy lay members are better positioned than the clergy to lead the church's evangelizing efforts. And this effort to install a more conservative pope has been in the works long before the passing of Pope Francis. The Red Hat Report was an effort by former members of the FBI and CIA to dig up dirt on potential progressive candidates for the papacy. Bush was supportive of this effort, and he continues to promote the idea that wealthy conservative Catholics should be in charge of the direction of the church. And to justify his position that the wealthy specifically should be in charge, he said in 2020, 2023. It's the lay apostolates that are going to make a big difference because they have better funding, they have smarter money, they can be made more mobile. Meanwhile, these MAGA-adjacent Catholics seem to have mixed feelings on Trump recently sharing an AI-generated image of himself as the Pope, even though he's not even a Catholic. When asked about the backlash he received for the picture, he said that there was no real backlash and that he didn't have anything to do with it, even though he shared it.
Catholics were not so happy about the image of you looking like the Pope.
Oh, I see. You mean they can't take a joke? You don't mean the Catholics, you mean the fake news media. Not the Catholics loved it. I had nothing to do with it. Somebody made up a picture of me dressed like the Pope, and they put it out on the internet. That's not me that did it. I have no idea where it came from. Maybe it was AI, but I know nothing about it. I just saw it last evening. Actually, my wife thought it was cute. She said, "Isn't that nice?"
My question about
Actually, I would not be able to be married, though. That would be a lot. I'd have to the best of my knowledge, popes aren't big on getting married, are they? Not that we know of. No. I think it's the fake news media that, they're fakers.
My question, though, sir, was about the fact that it was put out on the White House account. Even though it was AI generated, it was a joke, it was a meme. Does it at all diminish the substance of the official White House account to have it go out on that particular channel?
Give me a break. It was just somebody did it in fun. It's fine. Have to have a little fun, don't you?
Non era buono. No.
Can you say that in English?
He asked me about the president appearing as the Pope. Yeah. I hope he didn't have anything to do with that.
Are you offended by that?
Well, it wasn't good.
Anyway, whether or not all of this lobbying will actually sway the cardinals once they're inside the Sistine Chapel is anyone's guess. The selection of the Pope is supposed to be divinely inspired, but historically, it's clear that that hasn't always been the case. Of course, no one knows what goes on inside the chapel, so the actual politicking that takes place, who voted for who and why, is anyone's guess. Once any one cardinal achieves the necessary majority, though, we will have a new Pope. For now, this story puts in plain sight the fact that in this country, while we may technically recognize a separation of church and state, there are plenty among us who believe that certain groups should be in charge of the rest of us. They also seem to believe that the wealthy are among those groups of people because they still believe in some version of the prosperity doctrine, where the wealthy are wealthy because they're smarter and more blessed than everyone else, and as such, they deserve to be in charge. Agree to disagree. I've always been fascinated with the Catholic Church, though, from more of a historical perspective, and in geopolitics, the Pope is very much treated as a world leader, and he is. He's not just in charge of his physical geographic jurisdiction. He reigns over an entire network of churches around the world. Just look at the guests at his funeral. World leaders were in attendance from all corners of the globe. The United States has an ambassador to the Holy See. However much we try to pretend that the church is not influential in our secular politics, the Pope is incredibly influential with a significant portion of our population, and that cannot be ignored. Now we have Americans lobbying in plain sight for the chance to have a say in who the next Pope is. Unfortunately for them, Pope Francis appointed roughly 80% of the current electors, so it's hard to imagine them voting for someone so ideologically different from Francis. Besides, they have their own wine in Rome. They don't need this Napa wine, alright? That's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.